First contact and cultural shocks. The day Earth had been preparing for finally arrived on a crisp autumn morning. As the sun peeked over the horizon, casting a golden glow across the sprawling fields of Kansas, a shimmering disk descended from the sky. It touched down with barely a whisper, its iridescent surface reflecting the warm light of dawn. Dr. Amelia Chen, lead xenobiologist for the United Earth Council, stood at the forefront of the welcoming committee. Her heart raced with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. Years of training had led to this moment, yet nothing could truly prepare her for humanity's first contact with an alien species. The ship's entrance eye rised open, revealing a being unlike anything Amelia had imagined. The alien was tall and slender, with skin that seemed to ripple with colors like the surface of a soap bubble. Its large, multifaceted eyes blinked in the sunlight as it took in the sight of the humans before it. "Welcome to Earth," Amelia said, her voice steady despite her nerves. "We are honored to meet you." The alien's mouth, if it could be called that, moved, and a melodious voice echoed in their minds. "Greetings, humans of Earth. I am 66, ambassador of the Luminary. We come in peace and with great curiosity about your world." As Zig-Zig stepped onto Earth's soil, a ripple of awe passed through the assembled crowd. Cameras flashed, capturing the historic moment for posterity. Amelia gestured towards the nearby conference center, where the initial meetings would take place. "Please, follow me. We have much to discuss and learn from each other." The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. Cultural exchanges, scientific discussions, and diplomatic negotiations filled every hour. The Luminary's advanced technology amazed the human scientists, while Earth's diverse ecosystems and cultures fascinated the aliens. It was during one of these cultural exchange sessions that things took an unexpected turn. Zig-Zig, who had been intently listening to a presentation on human social structures, raised a hand to interrupt. "Pardon my ignorance," Zig-Zig said, his voice tinged with curiosity, "but I'm still confused about your reproduction process. You say it involves only 2 individuals." Dr. Chen, who was leading the session, nodded. "Yes, that's correct. Human reproduction typically involves the genetic contribution of 2 parents." Zig-Zig's skin rippled with a pattern that the humans had come to recognize as surprise. How fascinating. And inefficient. On our world, reproduction is a communal event, involving the genetic contributions of multiple individuals. It allows for greater diversity and stronger offspring. The room fell silent as the implications of this revelation sank in. Amelia cleared her throat, trying to maintain her professional composure. "That's very interesting, Zig-Zig. Perhaps we could schedule a more in-depth discussion on comparative reproductive biology." But Zig-Zig wasn't finished. With an innocence that belied the impact of his words, he asked, "Would it be possible for me to participate in your reproductive process?" "For scientific purposes, of course. I'm quite curious to experience it firsthand." The silence that followed was deafening. Amelia's face flushed bright red as she struggled to find an appropriate response. The other scientists in the room exchanged shocked glances, some barely suppressing nervous laughter. General Marcus Stanton, the military liaison to the project, stepped forward with a forced smile. "I think that might be a bit beyond the scope of our current exchange. Ambassador Zig-Zig, perhaps we should move on to discussing your planet's climate." But the proverbial cat was out of the bag. News of Zig-Zig's innocent requests spread through the base like wildfire, eventually leaking to the press. Within hours, social media was ablaze with memes, jokes, and heated debates about interspecies relations. As Amelia sat in her office that evening, struggling to draft a report on the day's events, she couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of the situation. First contact with an alien species, and one of the biggest challenges turned out to be explaining the birds and the bees. A knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. It was Dr. Rajesh Kapoor, the team's synopsychologist. "Rough day?" he asked with a sympathetic smile. Amelia sighed. "You could say that. I never thought I'd be giving the talk to an alien ambassador." Rajesh chuckled. Look on the bright side. At least it shows they're genuinely interested in understanding us. And who knows? This could lead to some groundbreaking research in comparative biology. As they discussed the implications of the day's events, neither of them could have predicted just how prophetic Rajesh's words would prove to be. The innocent curiosity of an alien ambassador was about to set in motion a chain of events that would challenge everything humanity thought they knew about life, reproduction, and their place in the universe. In the days that followed, the base buzzed with activity. Scientists from various disciplines huddled together, discussing the ethical implications of Zixix's request and the potential for groundbreaking research. Meanwhile, diplomats worked overtime to ensure that the cultural misunderstanding didn't derail the broader goals of the first contact mission. Zixix, for his part, seemed both confused and intrigued by the commotion his question had caused. He spent hours in the library, poring over human biology textbooks and asking increasingly detailed questions about genetics and embryology. As the sun set on the 5th day since the luminary's arrival, Amelia found herself standing on the roof of the research facility, gazing up at the stars. The enormity of what was happening, not just the alien contact, but the profound questions it raised about life and diversity in the universe, weighed heavily on her mind. A soft humming alerted her to Zixix's approach. The alien ambassador joined her at the railing, his skin reflecting the starlight in mesmerizing patterns. "Dr. Chen," he said softly, "I fear I may have caused some distress with my earlier inquiries. That was not my intent." Amelia turned to face him, a gentle smile on her face. "No apologies necessary, Zixix. Your curiosity is exactly why we're both here, to learn from each other. It's just that some topics are more sensitive than others for us." Zixix's skin rippled in what Amelia had come to recognize as a thoughtful expression. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "there is a way we can satisfy both our scientific curiosity and respect your cultural boundaries." As Zixix outlined his idea, Amelia's eyes widened. It was audacious, potentially revolutionary, and just might work. As they rushed back inside to share the proposal with the rest of the team, neither of them realized that they were about to embark on an adventure that would change both their species forever. The stage was set for a journey of discovery that would challenge preconceptions, push the boundaries of science, and ultimately reveal the extraordinary adaptability and resilience of life itself. As humanity and the luminary stood on the brink of this new frontier, one thing was certain: the universe would never be the same again. Scientific collaboration and misunderstandings. The following weeks at the First Contact Research Center were a flurry of activity. Dr. Amelia Chen's team had been given the green light to pursue Zixix's proposal, a carefully controlled study of comparative reproductive biology. The project promised to revolutionize our understanding of life in the universe, but it also walked a razor's edge of ethical and biological complexity. Dr. Rajesh Kapoor, still adjusting to his new role as the lead synapsepsychologist on the project, stood before a holographic display of luminary cellular structures. "It's remarkable," he mused, his voice filled with wonder. "Their genetic material is arranged in a helical structure, similar to our DNA, but with 5 strands instead of 2. Zixix, who had been observing quietly, chimed in. "Yes, it allows for greater variability and resilience in our offspring. But what truly fascinates me is how you humans manage with just 2 contributors. The potential for genetic diversity seems so limited." Amelia, who had been reviewing safety protocols, looked up with a wry smile. "We've managed to muddle through somehow, but I have to admit, your communal approach to reproduction does have some intriguing advantages." As the days passed, the joint human luminary research team made breakthrough after breakthrough. They discovered that despite their vastly different evolutionary paths, there were surprising similarities at the molecular level between human and luminary biology. This opened up tantalizing possibilities for medical advancements that could benefit both species. However, as with any groundbreaking scientific endeavor, challenges and misunderstandings arose. One particularly tense moment came during an experiment involving the cultivation of hybrid cellular structures. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a brilliant geneticist with a penchant for pushing boundaries, had been working tirelessly on creating a synthetic environment that could support both human and luminary cellular growth. As she initiated the experimental sequence, the entire team held their breath. At first, everything seemed to be going according to plan. The hybrid cells began to divide and differentiate in ways that defied conventional understanding. Excitement filled the lab as scientists from both species crowded around the observation equipment. But then, something unexpected happened. The hybrid cells started behaving erratically, multiplying at an alarming rate and exhibiting properties that neither human nor luminary cells should possess. Alarms blared as the containment protocols kicked in. Dr. Rodriguez's face paled as she realized the potential consequences of her experiment. "Shut it down," she yelled, her fingers flying over the control panel. "Initiate emergency sterilization procedures." In the chaos that followed, accusations flew. Some human scientists, still wary of the aliens despite weeks of collaboration, suggested that the luminary might have deliberately introduced an unknown factor into the experiment. The luminary, in turn, questioned the competence of the human researchers and the safety of Earth's facilities. Amelia found herself in the unenviable position of trying to mediate between increasingly hostile factions. "Everyone, please," she shouted over the din. "Pointing fingers won't solve anything. We need to focus on containing this situation and understanding what went wrong." As the immediate crisis was brought under control, thanks to the quick thinking of both human and luminary scientists, a tense calm settled over the facility. The incident had shaken everyone's confidence and threatened to unravel the progress they had made. That evening, Amelia sat in her office, her head in her hands. The weight of responsibility felt crushing. A soft knock on the door roused her from her thoughts. It was Zix. "Dr. Chen," the alien ambassador said, his voice tinged with concern, "I sense great distress among your team. And within you." Amelia sighed, gesturing for Zix to take a seat. "It's been a challenging day. I fear this incident may have set back our efforts at collaboration and mutual understanding." Zix's skin shimmered with a pattern that Amelia had come to recognize as deep thought. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "this setback is actually an opportunity. On my world, we have a saying. It is in the crucible of adversity that true bonds are forged." As they talked late into the night, a new plan began to take shape. They realized that the key to moving forward lay not in avoiding their differences, but in embracing them. The very diversity that had led to misunderstanding could also be their greatest strength. The next morning, Amelia called a meeting of the entire research team, human and luminary alike. "Yesterday's incident was alarming," she began, her voice steady and determined. "But it has also shown us something crucial. We are pushing the boundaries of known science, venturing into realms that neither of our species has explored before. Mistakes will happen. Unexpected results will occur, but that is the nature of true discovery." She paused, looking around the room at the faces of her colleagues, human and alien, united in their pursuit of knowledge. "From this point forward, we will approach our work with a new perspective. Every experiment will be designed collaboratively, drawing on the strengths and insights of both our species. Every protocol will be reviewed by mixed teams. And most importantly, we will face every challenge, every setback, and every triumph together." The room was silent for a moment. Then slowly, nods of agreement and murmurs of approval spread through the assembled scientists. Dr. Rodriguez, still shaken from the previous day's events, stood up. I want to apologize for my recklessness. I was so excited by the possibilities that I didn't fully consider the risks. I'm grateful for everyone's quick action in containing the situation." Zix moved to stand beside Amelia, his presence a visual representation of the unity she was proposing. "We, too, have much to learn about collaboration. Our ways are not your ways, but together, We can forge a new path of discovery." As the meeting concluded and the teams dispersed to their various projects, there was a new energy in the air. The fear and suspicion that had threatened to derail their work had been replaced by a shared sense of purpose and excitement. Little did they know that the true test of their newfound unity was just around the corner. For in a securely sealed laboratory, watched over by a battery of sensors and safety protocols, the hybrid cells from the failed experiment continued to evolve in ways that would soon challenge everything they thought they knew about life itself. As Amelia made her final rounds for the night, checking in on the various research stations, she paused at the observation window of the containment lab. Inside, barely visible under the high-powered microscopes, the hybrid cells pulsed with an otherworldly energy. For a moment, she felt a chill run down her spine, a premonition of the incredible journey that lay ahead. With a shake of her head, she turned away, ready to face whatever challenges tomorrow might bring. After all, they were making history, not just for humanity or the luminary, but for life throughout the cosmos. And if there was one thing Amelia Chen was certain of, it was that the greatest discoveries often came from the most unexpected places. As she walked down the quiet hallway, the soft hum of equipment and the distant murmur of late-night discussions filling the air, Amelia couldn't help but smile. Whatever happened next, they would face it together, humans and aliens, united in the greatest adventure of all, the pursuit of knowledge. Crisis and revelation. The calm that had settled over the First Contact Research Center in the wake of the hybrid cell incident was shattered early one morning, 3 weeks later. Alarms blared throughout the facility, jolting Dr. Amelia Chen from a fitful sleep on her office couch. She had been working late, as usual, poring over the latest data from their experiments. "Emergency in Containment Lab 3, an automated voice announced over the intercom. All personnel report to designated safe zones. This is not a drill." Amelia's heart raced as she sprinted down the corridor, her mind racing through possibilities. Containment Lab 3 was where they kept the hybrid cells, the ones that had been behaving so strangely. As she rounded the corner, she nearly collided with Zixix, the luminary ambassador's iridescent skin pulsing with anxiety. "Dr. Chen." Zixix's telepathic voice was strained. "Something is terribly wrong." They reached the observation deck overlooking Containment Lab 3 to find a scene of controlled chaos. Scientists in hazmat suits were rushing about, while others were frantically working at computer terminals. Through the reinforced glass, Amelia could see why. The hybrid cells, once microscopic, had grown and merged into a pulsating, iridescent mass that filled nearly a quarter of the lab. Tendrils of the strange substance reached out, probing the air as if seeking something. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, her face pale behind her hazmat suit's faceplate, approached Amelia. "It started growing exponentially about an hour ago," she explained, her voice shaking. "We've tried everything to contain it, but nothing seems to work. It's adapting to everything we throw at it." As they watched, a tendril touched a metal table. In seconds, the table began to dissolve, its components seemingly absorbed into the growing mass. "My God," Amelia whispered, "it's not just growing. It's consuming." Zixix's multifaceted eyes widened in realization. The hybridization, it's created something entirely new. A form of life that combines the adaptability of luminary biology with the resource efficiency of human cells. The implications were staggering. If this new life form escaped the lab, it could potentially consume everything in its path, reimagining the very ecosystem of Earth, or any planet it encountered. General Marcus Stanton burst into the room, his face a mask of fury and fear. "Dr. Chen, I need options. Now. If we can't contain this, I have orders to initiate Protocol Omega." Amelia's blood ran cold. Protocol Omega, the complete destruction of the facility and everything in it, including all personnel. A last resort to prevent a potentially world-ending catastrophe. "Give us time, General," Amelia pleaded. "We created this. We can find a way to stop it. As the crisis deepened, the true strengths of both humanity and the luminary began to shine through. Dr. Rajesh Kapoor, drawing on his understanding of both species psychologies, facilitated rapid-fire brainstorming sessions that bridged cultural and cognitive gaps. Ideas flowed freely, each building on the last in a symphony of collaborative problem-solving. Dr. Rodriguez, determined to atone for her role in creating the crisis, worked tirelessly alongside luminary biochemists. Their combined knowledge led to breakthroughs in understanding the hybrid entity's molecular structure. But it was a young intern, Sarah Chen, no relation to Amelia, who provided the spark that would change everything. As the team debated various methods of attack, Sarah spoke up, her voice trembling but determined. "What if we're looking at this all wrong?" she said. "We're trying to destroy it, but what if the key is to communicate with it instead?" The room fell silent. Amelia turned to Zixix, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. "Is it possible? Could we establish some form of communication with this entity?" Zixix's skin rippled with excitement. "Perhaps. The luminary part of its biology might respond to our telepathic frequencies, and if we could combine that with human brainwave patterns." What followed was a race against time. As the hybrid entity continued to grow, consuming more of the lab, the combined human luminary team worked feverishly to construct a device that could bridge the gap between their consciousnesses and this new form of life. General Stanton paced nervously, checking his watch every few minutes. "You have 2 hours," he growled. "After that, I have no choice but to initiate Protocol Omega." The pressure was immense, but instead of crumbling, the team thrived. Humans and luminary alike pushed themselves to their limits, their differences forgotten in the face of this existential threat. They were no longer two species, but one united force driven by the will to survive and understand. With mere minutes to spare, the device was ready. It was a hodgepodge of human and luminary technology, held together with what looked suspiciously like duct tape in places. But to Amelia, it was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen, a physical manifestation of what their two species could accomplish together. "I should be the one to do it," Amelia said, reaching for the neural interface helmet. But Zixix placed a gentle tendril on her arm. "No, Dr. Chen, it must be both of us. This entity is born of both our species. Only together can we hope to reach it." And so, as the countdown to Protocol Omega ticked away, Amelia and Zixix stood side by side in the airlock, clad in protective suits. The door to Containment Lab 3 slid open, revealing the pulsating, ever-growing hybrid entity. They stepped forward together, Amelia's hand intertwined with Zixix's tendril. The entity seemed to sense their presence, tendrils reaching out curiously. Heart pounding, Amelia placed the communication device at the edge of the mass. Zixix activated it with a thought. For a moment, nothing happened. Then suddenly, Amelia's mind was flooded with sensations, images, and emotions unlike anything she had ever experienced. Beside her, she could feel Zixix trembling, equally overwhelmed. Through the chaotic deluge of information, a singular truth emerged. The entity was not malevolent. It was curious, confused, and incredibly lonely. Born of two worlds, it sought understanding and connection. With this realization came an epiphany. The key to saving both their worlds lay not in destruction, but in acceptance and guidance. Together, Amelia and Zixix projected thoughts of harmony, balance, and coexistence. Slowly, miraculously, the entity began to change. Its frantic growth slowed, then stopped. The tendrils that had been probing and consuming now began to reshape, forming more defined structures. As Amelia and Zixix watched in awe, the hybrid entity transformed before their eyes. It coalesced into a shimmering crystalline structure that pulsed with inner light, a perfect blend of human and luminary aesthetics. When they finally emerged from the lab, exhausted but triumphant, They were greeted by cheers and tears of joy from the assembled team. General Stanton, his earlier gruffness replaced by wonder, shook his head in disbelief. "I've seen a lot in my time," he said, his voice gruff with emotion. "But nothing like this. You've done the impossible." As news of their success spread, the implications began to sink in. They had not only averted a crisis, but had also made a discovery that would reshape their understanding of life itself. The hybrid entity represented a new frontier in biology, one that held untold potential for both their species. Amelia, exhausted but elated, found a quiet moment amidst the celebrations to stand with Zixix, gazing at the containment lab where their new creation pulsed with possibility. "You know," she said softly, "when you first asked about participating in human reproduction, I never imagined it would lead to this." Zixix's skin shimmered with what Amelia now recognized as amusement. Life, it seems, finds a way to surprise us all. Perhaps that is its greatest strength. As they stood there, human and alien united by shared experience and newfound understanding, both knew that this was only the beginning. The crisis had revealed not only the incredible potential of their combined knowledge, but also the profound strength that lay in their differences. The journey ahead would be challenging, filled with new questions and unforeseen obstacles. But as Amelia looked around at the diverse team of humans and luminary, all working together with renewed purpose and mutual respect, she knew that they were ready to face whatever the universe had in store. For in their darkest hour, humanity had shown its true colors: resilience, creativity, and an unshakable spirit of exploration. And in doing so, they had not only saved themselves, but had also opened the door to a future brighter than any could have imagined. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, bathing the research center in a warm glow, Amelia Chen smiled. Whatever came next, they would face it together. As pioneers, as scientists, and as friends. The adventure was only just beginning. Interstellar diplomacy and personal connections. The days following the containment of the hybrid entity were a whirlwind of activity. As news of the incident spread, both Earth and the luminary homeworld erupted in a frenzy of speculation, fear, and wonder. The delicate balance of interstellar relations hung by a thread, and Dr. Amelia Chen found herself at the center of a diplomatic storm. The United Earth Council convened an emergency session, broadcast live across the globe. Amelia stood before the assembly, her voice steady despite the weight of billions of eyes upon her. "What we have witnessed," she began, "is not a threat, but an opportunity. The hybrid entity represents a new frontier in our understanding of life itself. Yes, there were risks, but through collaboration and mutual understanding, we have turned potential catastrophe into a gateway to unimaginable advancements." As she spoke, Zixix stood beside her, a living testament to the partnership between their species. His presence, once alien and unsettling to many, now seemed to embody hope for a shared future. But not everyone was convinced. Senator Harriet Blackwood, known for her hawkish stance on extraterrestrial relations, leaned into her microphone. "Dr. Chen, while your achievements are commendable, can you assure this council and the people of Earth that this entity poses no threat? How can we trust that the luminary didn't orchestrate this entire incident as a form of biological warfare?" A murmur rippled through the assembly. Amelia felt a flash of anger, but before she could respond, Zixix stepped forward. Honored representatives of Earth, his telepathic voice resonated with quiet dignity. "I understand your fears. Not long ago, my people harbored similar suspicions about humanity. But what I have witnessed in these past weeks has filled me with awe and admiration for your species." His skin rippled with patterns of sincerity as he continued. The courage, creativity, and compassion shown by Dr. Chen and her team in the face of the unknown is a testament to the best qualities of both our peoples. This incident, far from being an act of warfare, has bound our destinies together in ways we are only beginning to understand. As Zixix spoke, Amelia noticed a shift in the room. The tension began to ease, replaced by a cautious curiosity. Even Senator Blackwood seemed moved, her earlier hostility softening into thoughtful consideration. Meanwhile, on the luminary homeworld, a parallel debate was unfolding. The High Council of Elders, initially alarmed by reports of the hybrid entity, now listened intently to transmissions from Earth. Dr. Rajesh Kapoor, who had formed a close bond with several luminary scientists, found himself acting as an impromptu ambassador. "My friends," Rajesh addressed the Luminary Council, his image projected onto a shimmering energy field. "What we have created together is nothing short of miraculous. It challenges our preconceptions about the nature of life and the boundaries between species. But more than that, it shows us what we can achieve when we combine our strengths." As the diplomatic discussions continued on both worlds, unexpected personal connections began to flourish. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, still grappling with guilt over her role in the crisis, found solace in long conversations with Lixon, a luminary bioengineer. Together, they began exploring the ethical implications of their work, their discussions ranging from the philosophical to the deeply personal. "You know," Elena said one evening, as they sat watching the hybrid entity pulse gently in its containment field, "I used to think of scientific discovery as a solitary pursuit. But this experience has shown me how much richer it can be when shared across cultures, across worlds." Lixon's skin shimmered with agreement. "Indeed, on my world, we have a saying. The universe sings in harmony, not in solo. I believe we are beginning to hear that song more clearly now." Even General Marcus Stanton, once the voice of caution and containment, found his worldview shifting. He spent increasing amounts of time with Zixix, fascinated by the luminaries' tales of cosmic exploration. "In all my years in the military," Marcus confided to Amelia, "I never imagined I'd be planning joint peacekeeping missions with an alien species. Life's full of surprises, isn't it, Doctor?" Amelia couldn't help but smile. "That it is, General. That it is." As the weeks passed, a new proposal began to take shape, one that would change the course of both civilizations. The idea, born from countless late-night discussions and collaborative research sessions, was as audacious as it was inspiring. A joint human luminary space station, dedicated to the study of the hybrid entity and the exploration of new forms of life. The project, dubbed Nexus, would be positioned in neutral space, a symbol of unity and shared scientific pursuit. Its design would incorporate the best of both species' technologies, creating a truly unique environment for research and cultural exchange. When the proposal was formally presented to both the United Earth Council and the Luminary High Council of Elders, it was met with a mix of excitement and trepidation. The costs would be enormous, the technical challenges daunting, and yet the potential benefits, both scientific and diplomatic, were impossible to ignore. After days of intense debate and negotiation, a historic decision was reached. Nexus would become a reality, the first truly interstellar collaborative effort between humanity and an alien civilization. As the announcement was made, celebrations erupted across Earth and the luminary homeworld. In the First Contact Research Center, the team that had been through so much together gathered to watch the news. Amelia stood at the back of the room, a bittersweet smile on her face. She felt a gentle touch on her arm and turned to see Zixix beside her. "You seem troubled, Dr. Chen," the luminary ambassador observed. "Is this not the outcome we hoped for?" Amelia sighed softly. "It is, and I'm thrilled, but I can't help but think of all the challenges ahead. We've only just begun to understand each other, and now we're embarking on the most ambitious project in human history." Zixix's skin rippled with what Amelia had come to recognize as gentle amusement. "Ah, but is that not the very essence of both our species? To reach for the stars, to push beyond our limits. Besides," he added, his telepathic voice warm with affection, "we have already overcome the greatest challenge, learning to trust one another." As Amelia looked around the room at the mixed group of humans and luminary, All celebrating together, she realized Zixix was right. They had come so far in such a short time, overcoming prejudices, fears, and the very boundaries of biology. "You know," she said, a note of wonder in her voice, "when you first asked about participating in human reproduction, I never imagined it would lead to, well, all of this." Zixix's skin shimmered with mirth. Life, it seems, has a way of exceeding our wildest imaginings. Perhaps that is its most beautiful quality. As the celebration continued around them, Amelia felt a surge of excitement for the future. The road ahead would be challenging, filled with new discoveries, setbacks, and triumphs. But they would face it together, not as separate species, but as partners in the greatest adventure of all. The stars beckoned, and humanity, hand in hand with their new luminary friends, was ready to answer the call. The next chapter of their shared story was about to begin, and it promised to be more extraordinary than anyone could have ever imagined. Triumph of understanding and new beginnings. 5 years had passed since the groundbreaking decision to build Nexus, the joint human luminary space station. Today, as Dr. Amelia Chen stood in the observation dome, watching the final module being maneuvered into place, she could hardly believe how far they had come. The station was a marvel of engineering and cooperation, its design a harmonious blend of human ingenuity and luminary biotechnology. Curved, organic structures flowed seamlessly into more angular human architecture, creating a space that was both alien and familiar. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" a voice beside her said. Amelia turned to see Sarah Chen, no longer an intern but now the lead researcher on xenobiology. "I still can't believe we're really here." Amelia smiled, remembering the young woman's crucial role in communicating with the hybrid entity years ago. "We're here because of people like you, Sarah. Your willingness to think outside the box, to see possibilities where others saw only threats." As they watched, a shuttle docked with the newly installed module. The first team of permanent residents, a mix of humans and luminary, would soon be settling into their new home among the stars. "Dr. Chin to the command center," a voice announced over the intercom. "The opening ceremony is about to begin." Amelia made her way through the station's corridors, marveling at the seamless integration of technologies. Air recyclers hummed quietly, their efficiency boosted by luminary bioengineering. Gravity plating, a human invention, allowed for Earth-like conditions throughout the station. In the command center, a crowd had gathered. Humans and luminary stood side by side, their differences now a source of strength rather than division. At the center of it all, displayed on a massive view screen, was the containment chamber housing the hybrid entity, the catalyst that had brought them all together. Zixix, now the official luminary ambassador to Earth, moved to stand beside Amelia. "Who would have thought," he communicated telepathically, his skin shimmering with emotion, "that a simple question about reproduction would lead to all this?" Amelia chuckled softly. "Life finds a way to surprise us, doesn't it?" The room fell silent as United Earth President Kimberly Wong's image appeared on the screen. "Citizens of Earth and Lumina," she began, her voice filled with pride. "Today marks a new chapter in the history of both our species. Nexus stands as a testament to what we can achieve when we embrace our differences and work together towards a common goal." As the president spoke, Amelia's mind wandered back to the challenges they had overcome. There had been setbacks, of course, cultural misunderstandings that led to heated debates, technical difficulties that seemed insurmountable at times. But through it all, the spirit of cooperation had prevailed. She thought of Dr. Elena Rodriguez and Lixon, whose collaborative work on ethical xenobiology had revolutionized both human and luminary approaches to genetic research, of General Marcus Stanton, who had become an unlikely but passionate advocate for interspecies cooperation in space exploration. The president's voice brought her back to the present. "And now, it is my great honor to officially declare Nexus operational. May it serve as a beacon of hope and discovery for generations to come." Cheers erupted throughout the station as the lights in the hybrid entity's chamber pulsed in sync with the celebration. The entity, once a source of fear, had become a symbol of the unlimited potential of life itself. As the formal ceremony concluded, the real work began. Scientists from both species eagerly set about their research, exploring new frontiers in physics, biology, and a dozen other fields. The hybrid entity, under careful study, continued to yield insights that challenged fundamental assumptions about the nature of life and consciousness. But perhaps more importantly, Nexus became a cultural melting pot. Humans and Luminary lived and worked side by side, learning from each other in ways that went far beyond scientific exchange. New art forms emerged, blending human creativity with Luminary perception of higher dimensions. Philosophers from both species engaged in deep discussions, merging diverse worldviews into new schools of thought. Months turned into years, and Nexus thrived. It became a popular destination for diplomats, scientists, and civilians from both worlds, eager to experience the frontier of interspecies cooperation. The station's success led to talks of similar projects, including joint colonies on distant planets and shared deep space exploration missions. On the 5th anniversary of Nexus's inauguration, Amelia found herself once again in the observation dome. The view of the stars never failed to take her breath away. As she stood there, lost in thought, she felt a familiar presence beside her. "Penny for your thoughts, Dr. Chen," Zix asked, his telepathic voice warm with friendship. Amelia smiled. "I was just thinking about how far we've come. Remember when the biggest challenge was explaining human reproduction to you?" Zix's skin rippled with amusement. "Ah yes, those were simpler times. Though I must admit, I'm still fascinated by the intricacies of human pair bonding." They shared a laugh, the easy camaraderie between them a microcosm of the broader understanding that had blossomed between their species. "You know," Amelia said, her voice thoughtful, "when I was a little girl dreaming of the stars, I never imagined anything like this. I thought space exploration would be about conquering new frontiers, planting flags on distant worlds. But this coming together of different species, different ways of thinking, it's so much more profound." Zix nodded, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the starlight. "Indeed, we Luminary have a saying. The universe's greatest wonders are not found in distant galaxies, but in the connections we forge along the way." As they stood there, human and alien united in friendship and in shared purpose, a alert chimed softly. It was from the hybrid entity's chamber. New data was coming in, hinting at possibilities that would once again challenge their understanding of life and the cosmos. Amelia felt a familiar surge of excitement. "Shall we?" she asked, gesturing towards the door. Zix's skin shimmered with anticipation. "Always, my friend. The adventure continues." As they made their way to the research lab, surrounded by the bustle of human and Luminary colleagues working in harmony, Amelia knew that they were living proof of humanity's greatest strengths: adaptability, curiosity, and the capacity for understanding and growth. The hybrid entity pulsed gently in its chamber, a living symbol of the unexpected connections that had brought them all together. And as Nexus continued its silent journey through the stars, it carried with it the hopes and dreams of two species, united in their quest for knowledge and their celebration of the rich tapestry of life in all its forms. The story of humanity's first contact with the Luminary, which had begun with a simple, innocent question about reproduction, had blossomed into something far greater than anyone could have imagined. It was a testament to the power of open minds, brave hearts, and the unquenchable spirit of exploration that defined both their species. As Amelia and Zix bent over the latest data, their minds already racing with new questions and possibilities, one thing was certain: the greatest chapters of their shared story were yet to be written, and they would face them together, as friends, as colleagues, and as fellow explorers in the vast, wondrous universe they called home.